Hey, hey, welcome to another episode. I am Dagny.
And I'm Damali.
And in this episode, we want to discuss and share with you about the art of decluttering. And in this episode, it might feel a little different in terms of we are sharing our own experiences in terms of how we have evolved or navigated clutter in our lives, what has helped us, and where are we now with it? And how do we feel like why it even happens or why it's important to be mindful of it? So, to start, I want to ask first, I'm going to ask you, Damali, do you declutter?
Ding, 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 ding.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let's see. I feel like there's like two answers, but yes and no.
Okay, that cancels each other out. It doesn't count. Let's try this again.
Okay, well, there's been a long string of time that I have not decluttered. Like I've taken a long time, with my decluttering process. And more recently, I've been decluttering. I think that's the best way to and this would be in my longest home, because I've moved around. Obviously, I've lived in other cities or other countries, so you live in an apartment for a while and then you move. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a place that's been around for a long time. In this case, my parents' home, and like where you have a lot of stuff that's kind of accumulated over the years. And it's been sitting there for a while, and I feel like ever since I suppose like adulthood, right? Because when you're an adult, you're moving around a lot. So stuff you used to use before adulthood gets stuck somewhere and you never really move it around. And so I would say for a long stretch of time, no. But recently, I would say in the last month or so, I have been decluttering. Is that a good answer to start with?
Sure. Yes. Because it's definitely a journey in itself. Yes.
Yes.
I would say for me, I do declutter. I think my methods of doing that has changed and evolved over time. I can remember, like, as a kid, there is something that we would do at home thanks to Mama, where going into the new semester, at the end of a semester, she would have us do a deal of, okay, we got to collect all of our schoolwork, paperwork, books, notebooks, anything that we know it is complete and finished, and put it in like a certain container as like storage kind of thing. And the idea was that to remove it because you need space for the next semester and the next notebooks and stuff, but also to keep it safe, to store it. So that idea of there's like a seasonal routine of needing to move things or store things that you're not using, that sort of thing, is something that as a kid I noted, oh yes, this is like part of a routine that we do. I think it was much later for me in terms of building or developing other methods that go for decluttering that are seasonal in my life, as opposed to seasonal due to school or seasonal due to the weather has changed. I also know it was some years ago where a particular book influenced me on this called, hold on, I have it because I found it, Clear Your Clutter with Feng Shui by Karen Kingston. And I'll speak a little more about the book later on in this episode. But that was a book that actually influenced a lot for me about my idea about decluttering, noting that actually there's a lot more I could be doing about that and being more intentional about it, and starting to live a lifestyle that actually does not create clutter. So once you have decluttered, the point is not and we're going to do this all over again next year. It's like actually you are now in a habit or routine of you're not collecting the clutter. So there's not a huge, like now I've noted now, I don't necessarily have like the huge overhaul that I used to have to do of like, okay, roll up my sleeves and this whole day is dedicated to everything needs to go or everything needs to be moved around and stuff. And I do agree with you that these different methods do have to be adapted to like where you're living. The longer you're living in a space, the more there is to have to move through, because there's like more chapters of your life are living in that space. And so what I liked, which I'll speak on later a little more, what I liked about the book that I resonated with was that with the adding the ideologies of feng shui with it, and noting that decluttering is not only about, oh, throw away stuff you don't use or just move stuff so there's space on a desk, but that actually your living space is alive, like there's energy. And so all the things that are in it are carrying energy, possibly your own and its own too. So decluttering also is kind of a exercise in movement of energy for yourself as well, which I resonated with, because I thought I do believe in that and find that fascinating. So that is, to answer the first question, that has been my experiences or how I've gotten to this point when it comes to the art of decluttering.
Okay. All right. I like what you, were you finished? Were you going to
Yes.
continue? I was going to say, I like what you said about the exercise of is that, wait, exercise and the movement of energy.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you said. Yeah. Yeah. I like what you said about that, because I do believe that is a big part of what decluttering is. Like, yes, part of it is, yes, tidying up so there's not a mess everywhere
Mm-hmm.
and there's not junk stuck somewhere. But I do think the main thing is the energy, and you do really feel the shift. And I think I guess I kind of knew why I hadn't decluttered yet. Like, part of it is just like time and moving around and stuff. But then also it was about like where I was, like, emotionally and like mentally, I guess, because I mean, obviously everyone remembers COVID, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for COVID, we were kind of stuck in the same place for a while because, people were like, getting sick and dying, right? So we kind of had to stay in because of COVID. And even during COVID time, when I was like stuck for like 2 or 3 years, like, I still didn't declutter. So
Mm-hmm.
like, it's not like it's a time thing, or, oh, because I wasn't there, so I couldn't, like, no, right? Every time I would come and visit home, and then like, and then another thing that would happen is that I would have certain clutter, and then I would go out and, move around, move to different cities or countries. And then of course, when you go out in other places, you buy more things, right? And so a lot of those things I would throw it away, but then some stuff I would keep, right? And then and also gifts and things like that, cards and items like that will add up, or just like, oh, this, look at this cute thing I got on Amazon that I didn't really need, and then like some of it I use, some of it I don't use, and it ends up in some corner somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
um and I and then I guess with decluttering, I've noticed that if I declutter stuff, there might be an emptiness in the space that I declutter, but there's also an emptiness I feel inside myself, which
Mm.
is good
Yes.
and bad.
Yeah.
Certain emptiness that's nice to feel, other emptiness, oh, I don't like that. That looks like change. That smells like change. I don't like that. That's scary. I don't want to do that. Um, and then also there's the added part of where to start, right? Because there's so much to deal with. You're like, what part do I do everything in a day? Do I do half of something? What stuff do I look at? And then I mean, I guess being more intentional with decluttering has helped. And then part of me uh got more, I guess, um answers as to why I haven't wanted to move stuff around, because I think there might be still some old thoughts or old ideologies that I'm still connected to, that I haven't cleared out in my mind yet, or I don't want to, or like there's an emotionally stuck stuff going on inside me. Like, for example, I was doing some decluttering and it was fine, everything was good and everything, and then I found like a journal, which is fine, but then instead of just moving through, I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just flip through the journal. It's fun to look through this. And then I'm like, oh, I'm crying now. All right, let's put that away. And I'm like, just like, damn it. I'm like, that's why I don't want to declutter. No, emotion. So yeah, so I cried about that. And of course, days had to go by before I decluttered again, because obviously not gonna do that. So now I'm like, okay, maybe I should declutter safe things first. Like, maybe I should get rid of things that won't make me like choke up or something. And so I moved some dolls and some gifts and things like that, and put them in another place. And obviously when you declutter, you tend to clean up and tidy the area. So that also, it makes it like cleaner. Um, I have felt some shifts in the energy in my room and like how I'm thinking about stuff. And I also, I think I've recently gone through kind of a shift in certain ideas or viewpoints or people in my life, or like there's different things going on, and that's made me want. It's made me antsy, and I want to move stuff. I want to move the clutter because it's like there's something else going on within me. And I think that that also has pushed me to move stuff around. Um, and also I've been like going back. There's certain hobbies or things I like to do that I hadn't done for a long time, and I've kind of decided to return to some old things. And so because I'm returning to old things, I'm like, oh, where's this old thing that will help me with this idea? I need to look through my clutter and find something that I need to spark some, new stuff going on. So yeah, there's been some shifts. And funnily enough, I didn't make any resolutions. After COVID, I thought, well, the world is ending, so why would I make a resolution when the world's ending, right? And also, I think sometimes resolutions can set you up to fail because, like, if you make a specific list of, I can do all these things, and then if you don't do them, then you're a failure. So I've kind of tried to do things as I go. And it looks like I've been making resolutions I guess, subconsciously,
Mm,
because I didn't decide, oh, I'm going to declutter. That's my new. No, I just decided, okay, there needs to be shifts. I need to move things, and I I feel like now is a good time to start, kind of thing.
mm,
Um, and that's that's what I would say about that.
mm.
Dagny, would you like to piggyback off of any of that?
Sure, sure. I guess we can then speak on, I think, the segues to what type of practices or exercises do we use when it
Mm,
comes to decluttering? Like, what things have we noted have worked and have not worked? Yeah. I
mm,
think for me, what does not work is if I try to do like a very big space all at once. I then will get
yeah.
tired because now I've made more of a mess than what was already a mess. And then it just continues as a very big mess. And then I got tired from the mess. And I end up not really decluttering as much as I wanted to. So I have, which I'm going to mention this book again. What I liked about a part of the method or process that this book that I mentioned brings up is having like a roadmap for the spaces you're trying to declutter. So if it's your entire space, let's say you live in an apartment, you live in a house, and you take note of, okay, you start with the places that you can see. As in those spaces, make sure everything has a place. And then have one spot, whether it's a drawer or one of those like containers, to be like the miscellaneous spot. Like anything that you really can't put a space to, you just put it in there, so that everything that is that are bigger spaces in your place can be decluttered in a way that doesn't cause more of a mess. Then you go into, okay, now I'm going to do these cupboards. I'm not going to do this closet. I'm going to do the places that are hidden, kind of thing. And that helps you to be like, oh, I've actually done something today because look, that corner looks different or this other corner looks different, which is helpful. And what I liked about bringing feng shui into it, which if you don't know, there's like a whole like map about energy flow. It's an ancient Chinese ideology, remedy, where there's a map about the space that you're in that goes with the directions of a compass of north, south, east, and west. And they know that, oh, certain colors should be directed in certain directions in your space. And you can use certain elements and things like that. And I noted for me when I started um, practicing that or utilizing those elements, where again is not to completely renovate and like break down a wall and remove a door. It's not that dramatic. It could be doing a deal of like, oh, in this corner, if you put a mirror there or put a plant there or hang a crystal or a wind chime here, it actually would help with the flow that's happening there. Or on another spot, using a certain color. I get a color of a certain pillowcase to be this color in this corner or in this area. Actually, for me, I've noted it actually does make a difference in the space to that after you've decluttered it, you actually don't feel like cluttering it again. Or for some reason like this, the stuff doesn't just like encroach in the space again. And for me, I have found that to be like it's become such a routine for me that now, similar to what you noted, of like, now I know that when I start feeling sluggish or I'm just feeling like sleepy during the day, I'm like, and it's time to move something. Let me move something around. And sometimes it may not be because something is cluttered. It could be because actually we need to move around the furniture or move around art pieces on the wall or move around energy in the space. So and then also maybe also to piggyback off of what you noted is that I've also experienced that of like the process of decluttering also has a lot to do with letting go. Because I feel like at least for me, I know that the stuff that you have are all like almost like a museum of you. These are things that you used to be into or you had tried before or you had documented before in terms of journals and stuff. And some of the stuff are sentimental. Some of the stuff might bring back memories that you do like, memories that you don't. And so decluttering does, I think, is it kind of enables you to develop that muscle of letting go. And possibly, if as you see it, depending on the perspective, could also be a nice exercise to take note of how far you've come when you look at the types of things you were dealing with before or the types of things you were holding on to before. And if you can see of like, for example, maybe you were somebody who was really dependent on something before, whether it was a certain medication or a certain distraction. And then you're decluttering and it's like, wow, I haven't even needed, you recognize for yourself, I haven't needed to take that for so long or haven't needed to use that for so long. Isn't that great? Like it could be a part of celebration too, to take note of how far you've come, even though there might be some tears involved in some of them, which I think is a good exercise too. So I think for me overall, decluttering has been like, it's not so much about being a so-called minimalist, because that's a whole other conversation for minimalism. But I do think it can lead to or enhance or add to a healthy lifestyle. What that gets me thinking though, which I might have brought back to you as a question, is would decluttering be considered a privilege of some kind? Because this got me thinking about two things. One, I've seen like some memes and stuff of people noting of how certain generations exist in their space. And how, let's say for the millennial generation, a lot of millennials go into minimalism. Because if you look at the houses they grew up in, all of them were cluttered for some reason. Like all of their parents seem to just like save or keep everything in the house. And so now this wave of minimalistic decor, everything is beige and cream and gray, and there's nothing on the counter, there's nothing on the floor, there's nothing on the walls, that kind of extreme. Where does that come from? Is that really generational? That was one thing. And then the second thing noting about it being decluttering is if it is a privilege, or would it be looked at the same way by everyone, is the concept of cluttering or the concept of hoarding, like keeping stuff. Is that a direct response for possibly things getting lost before or feeling out of control? Like sometimes for some people, they keep everything because they did go through some trauma in their life where everything was lost, whether by a natural disaster wiped out the home, or through war, all their stuff was taken away. And so now, whichever space they're in now, they feel like in order to feel like they are in control of themselves, they will not let go of anything because you're still carrying that fear of like everything could be lost. And so to me, that sometimes gets me thinking about the different ways someone would approach decluttering. Because for us, as we're speaking, it's like, oh, it's a great thing, it moves around the energy and you feel lighter and your place looks, light or spacious. But for somebody else, it actually could trigger a flight or a fear of like, if the place is so empty, does that mean everything was stolen? Or does that mean we're okay? Or does that mean we need to move again? So I think as we're speaking about our own people, how we're moving through decluttering, and even you listening, how you think about, hey, is your place, do you think your place is cluttered? Do you feel you could move it around and stuff? I feel we need to always adapt it to what resonates, to like what is important to you. So for me, the decluttering is not so much everything should be new all the time and nothing old should be in your space. Decluttering is more about keeping like an energy of just clean and lightness in where you live or where you're constantly staying. So it's not so much about throwing everything away. It's more about everything should have a space. Like, oh, my notebook usually is in this space, or the pillows go in this space, or the seasonings go in this space. I just feel like for me, it's like when everything has a space, everything's happy because then nothing feels neglected. So even if it is your old journals or your old photos or an old camera, if it has its special space, it feels like it's a part of your regular lifestyle. While instead, if it's shoved in the back of a drawer or left in some corner caking in dust, that allows the energy of stagnation or neglect or even sadness to just sit there because the thing itself feels like you don't want it anymore. Which then makes me think of like Toy Story. You know how the toys felt neglected when the kid doesn't want to play with them anymore? Kind of thing. I feel like that's the kind of energy all of your things will have in your space as well. So yes, throwing that back to you in terms of those concepts and questions and thingamajigs. Yes.
Yes, yeah. I think the first thing I'll answer to is, yeah, I think in terms of the process of decluttering and making it easier, for me, figuring out where to put the clutter before I move it was helpful.
Mm.
Because I feel like a lot of times in the beginning, I'll be like, okay, just move it because it's messy and just put it somewhere. But if there's nowhere for me to put the clutter, then what am I doing? Right. So I think part of it was like, I'm like, okay, well, there's these items, these 10 or 20 items, and I want to put them on this shelf, and I'll clear this shelf and put it there. So it's easier to figure out where to put it. And then also making two piles, like one for things I'm going to keep and then another for like things I want to throw away. Right. And I think thinking about like, if you're not using this thing now, will you use this thing now? Will you use it next year? You're not going to use it, then put it somewhere, then put it away. Right. Put it where you can't see it, but you know where it is. And I like what you meant about like things not feeling like neglected, right? And like not just leaving stuff in dust and things like that, because then why is it here, right? And then making sure everything has its own space, so it's not just like dumped somewhere. And also another idea came in, maybe you could have some clutter in your space, but just in less spaces. Like instead of having clutter in like 10 different places, there should be only one place where this is the clutter place. It's stuff I don't know what to do with. I put it in this pile. We deal with it later. And then I think that definitely is a good idea to make it easier as well. And like you're just kind of breaking down, like with most things, if you break it down in smaller steps, and it's like a much easier thing to deal with. And then also there's a difference, right, between mess and clutter. Sometimes it is just messy and it's like a dump, like just get rid of it like immediately. And when there's clutter where all these things are, are fine, but like, there's an issue with it. Um, and then also I would say that I agree with the immigrant parent thing that you talked about, where yeah, I think the clutter is different when you are born in the country and you stay in the country versus moving somewhere else, where it's like, oh, what to do with your stuff, what's going on there, things like that. Um, and so I think that that's important, that there's always a reason behind the clutter, I think, right? There's always it's not, I don't think it's like in a vacuum, especially when it's been there for a long time, right? And you were kind of, confused about different things, right? And then I do think there is a fear. There definitely is a fear of decluttering. I definitely, I've had this as well, where I don't really know, like, oh, like what will happen. I think people feel like, what will happen when I declutter? Like what, and if I move everything and it's all bare, then what does that mean about me and my personality and my life and my mind and like all this stuff? And like, I can't handle this, and I'll have to face things I don't want to face and things like that. And so I think there definitely isn't a truth to that. And I think it's something like with most things, I think people should be gentle with themselves, right? Um, and they shouldn't like it takes time, right? And also you have to be the one to decide it. Because someone telling me, oh, you should declutter this, and I'm like, okay, that's cute and all, but I'm not there yet. Like if I'm not deciding it, then it's hard for me. And even talking right now, I can see some places that I'm like, damn it, I have to declutter that already. But and I try to be like even if I move like one or two things, I'm like, good job, Damali. Like, good
Mm.
job. You moved those two things great, or I'm able to throw away some things I don't need. Also, I feel like don't be afraid. I mean, I'm the type that I really like to obviously keep my gifts. Like I keep them. I like, but I'm kind of like, think about all the gifts you've given to people over the years. How many of them do you actually remember? Like, do you remember every single gift you've given or received? No. So if you have a gift and it's like broken and messed up, you don't have to keep it. Like, I don't think unless the person is gonna come be like, hey, I gave you this gift 20 years ago. Where is it? Like, I feel like anything can, and maybe you don't have to throw it away, but just, put it somewhere nice kind of thing. Um, but I do think there's a lot to be said about it. There definitely is an art to it. There definitely is a way that, but I think it does have something to do with your energy and your feng shui, and like it does, it affects you. Any environment you're in affects you. Same thing with like people, like hanging out with people will, even if like, let's say you're hanging out with certain types of people and they're very different from you, or they're doing stuff that you don't really agree with, you're still affected by it, right? Because you're
Mhm.
around them, right? You can't, we don't live like in a vacuum. So I think that, and also it's funny because I'm kind of like, I agree with you. Like, remember before our parents would do the decluttering with us. I remember like mama would do that with us, where we would get rid of stuff we're not using as much anymore and things like that. And that was a thing in our childhood, but then obviously we grew up and became adults. So it's like, you're on your own, like, kind of thing. And yeah, and so I think that as an adult, I don't even know how the clutter started really. Like at first I don't know. Like
Yes.
it was fine. And then all of a sudden, like, I mean, I think part of it is leaving home, because I would like, what would happen is I would leave home and stuff would be bought outside, and then I
Mhm.
would come back and visit, leave the stuff, go out again, and you're always like, you're not always reusing the same things, right?
Mhm.
Um, and then there's certain things I want to keep, like stuff from grade school or college or things like that. Sometimes I want to keep some things, right? Um, but often it's like, okay, if you're not using this anymore and no longer serves you, then maybe you should, I don't know, get rid of it, like like you're probably not gonna miss it. You think you will, but especially if you haven't thought about something for so many years and then you find it and you're like, oh my God, I really need this. I'm like,
Mm.
do you?
Mhm.
Do you? So yeah, so I've been trying to move stuff around. It's gotten a bit better. Especially with I've been, I've recently been buying a lot of I've been buying a lot of books recently. I've been like this, I'm something I love to read, but I also sometimes just I love the smell of books, and I love
Mhm.
bookstores, and I just like I just like love books. So I'll buy all of these books and then I'm like, wait, have I read them yet?
Mhm.
Oh
Mhm.
damn. I just like books. Like I just like having them around me. I don't know, that's also an emotional thing too. I don't know.
Mm.
Um, but so what I've had to do is organize where I put my books, and put like and have like a list of books I'm going to read and when I'm going to read them and where they should be, so they're not adding to the rest of the clutter and creating more dust and things like that. Um, and I need to get better at that, because a lot of times because of the clutter, I'll try to put something somewhere. There's no space for it because I
Right.
have all this stuff like in the way.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And then like I'll like start decluttering, and then like I'll see old things, like old items, and then I'll put them and be like, oh, I'll probably use this tomorrow. So I have to put it somewhere I can see it. But then I put it where I can see it, isn't it clutter again? Like it's just
Mhm.
such it definitely is a process. And I know that it takes time, and you just have to be gentle with yourself and do it when you feel you're ready for it. Um, I'm still going through like old stuff and things like that, and figuring out what I can keep, and figuring out, okay, I need to get something where the clutter, maybe put something where I'll put the clutter in one spot and then look through it later, kind of thing. And then of course there's, some things are easier than others. Like there's some clutter I can see, and then there's some that's like hidden away somewhere. And I feel like both have to be dealt with. But yeah, I definitely think it's different for everyone, and it's connected to a lot of different things. And I feel like I agree when you talked about like the millennials doing this minimalistic kind of lifestyle. I think that that's part of it too, where we kind of we're getting into a new mode of energy and mental health. And, even though a lot of baby boomers are rolling their eyes, I guess, with our, but we'll be the healthier ones. Well, mentally anyway. And we're going into all our mental health and feng shui and how do we feel and like being aligned and the chakras and all of that stuff, which of course is important, right? You don't want to get too much into it, but it is important to be like being aligned. And I think, it in order to be aligned with yourself, you need to be very in control of your space. Like any spaces around you, you have to, because a lot of life is not being in control, right? There's a lot of times you can't control other people. You can't control other people's actions. Well, not all the time, right? And you can't control what happens outside of your bubble or outside of your safe space. You can't really control it. So if you can't control the outside space, but then your inside space is also a mess, it would be very difficult to be aligned, right? It'd be difficult to like not be confused and not really know what am I doing or how do I. You just don't. Your mind is like muddled. So I think it's important you have to have spaces that can be clear for you. And I think the clutter is part of that. If you have all this clutter and all this matter, all this stuff around you, and you're not in control of where things are or where to place things or what, then I think it can connect to your own life and like your own choices that you're making and things like that. So I do think it's a very interesting, I guess, the thing with how people are dealing with it, depending on the different generations and or where you've come from, if you were born in the country or you're from somewhere else, or if you're traveling around a lot too, which in that case you would you can't have clutter like on you, right? Because if let's say you're traveling a lot, you can't be carrying everything on your back all the time, right? Because you need to be like light on your feet to be able to move. Yeah, so that's what I would say on that to answer you on that part that you brought up.
Yes. So then to bring it all in.
Always bring it in.
Bring it all in. I think it would be good to also note, how do we maintain being like clutter free? Because I do think with these sorts of things, it's all about a lifestyle. It's not we do it once and then that's it. And I feel it's not about trying to master this. The focus should be more on how to maintain this. Because when you try to master something, that means you do it once and then you just move on to something else. While maintaining it means you are going to consistently continue like this, or trying to continually consist routines like this. Yeah. And so for me, I've noted what's helped is noting, being real with yourself. I've been trying to be real with myself when it comes to what sort of conditioning you possibly have picked up when it comes to consuming stuff. And I've noticed for me, like either if you're coming from a hyper consumerism vibe where, if you need to treat yourself, you're always buying something. Or if you feel down, let me go buy something. Or you feel happy, let me go buy something. You feel like you need a change of routine, let me go buy something. We do have, which we get it, is for, businesses to thrive. Everyone should be buying something. But if you're constantly buying something, does this not continue the clutter that you were trying to declutter in the first place? So what I've found that has been helpful for me is, this has taken some years. It wasn't an overnight situation, but trying to figure out what sort of daily routines can I have that helps me to not add to the clutter. So simple things like you use something, put it away when it's done, as opposed to leaving it somewhere and you'll get to it later. Kind of like, in your kitchen, if you use something, finish the circle. Like everything that you use there's a circle of a routine that goes with, you took it out, you used it, now you need to clean it or put it away before you take it out again, put it away before you take it out again. So for example, in your kitchen, if you did the deal of you took something out, you used it, you cleaned it, and you put it away, Well, now there's no clutter in the sink, right? Or on the counter or anything like that. If one can start, which can start trying to create that as a habit, not because someone else told you to do it, but just like this is how you are gradually, oh, things are just put away without needing to do a overhaul. It's time to clean up kind of vibe. Another thing I've noted that has been helpful is like types of storage that actually is nice. So something that I've noted, like, oh, maybe if you have a cupboard, so you're hanging up stuff, right? Instead of using the wired hangers that come from other laundry places, you could invest in like nicer hangers that hold the clothing better and take up I'm laughing because Damali's laughing at me, and take up less storage, right? Like there's the things like that where now or the types of containers you use, even the container you use for, this is the container for my cluttered stuff because I don't know where to put it yet, but it's a pretty box or it's a pretty container type thing. Those sorts of things really help to shift your perspective on your space so that the energy can still be light, or there's no room for the dust to just start caking on things. And it also makes it even like you actually enjoy tidying up when you need to because you've already put these sorts of things in place, which also has some connection to, I think, I think there is some like mindfulness awareness that goes with that too, I think. But that's what has helped me over the years is in terms of maintenance. That has helped. It doesn't mean the place is always like there's no clutter ever kind of thing, but it does mean that the level of piling up or the level of feeling stuck or suffocated in the space really doesn't happen anymore because there's some routines that kind of keep certain spaces, especially the spaces you're using every day, daily. Those are like the high point ones that maintaining a daily routine of not allowing it for stuff to pile up and to make it pretty as well in however form that works for you is cool. The mindfulness, okay, one point. The mindfulness comes in of that, can you stop yourself of this is exactly what I need and that's it? Because there's a whole other form of hyper consumerism when it comes to storage, where you can have a dozen different cups and a dozen different cupboards and a dozen different those makeshift looking cubby holes, like, and which kind of defeats the purpose of being clutter free because now you've created a whole bunch of clutter with all these pretty shelves and boxes and hangers and stuff. So I think that there's a balance with that of keeping things that you actually use and then putting them in spaces that are pretty without getting on the bandwagon or conditioning of, oh, I need another set of these different cute storage looking things, which end up adding to clutter because you had nothing to put in it in the first place. We got to be careful of that too. But that's where the mindfulness comes in. But hold grace for yourself because the things do look cute and sometimes you can't help it, but always make sure there is something to utilize it for. So that would be my takeaway on maintaining a lifestyle that helps you to not add more clutter, but also understand how to move it even when it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, like, yeah, I was laughing because you were like, yeah, don't have these like messy, ugly looking things, like, get better hangers. Like, what's wrong with you? Like, why can't you just deal with it? No, but I think consumerism is a big thing, and capitalism, obviously, like, we're in this kind of culture where it's all about buy, buy, buy. You have to get this now. Why don't you get this off 99.99, or this is 10% off discount, and like Cyber Monday, like, you know what I mean? Like, we have all this like discounts, buy it now, you need it now, you need it now. What do you like? We're going to tell you what you need before you need it. Like, that kind of, and then we have the algorithms and like, okay, well, you looked at that cup, so now we're going to send you 5,000 cups, you know what I mean? And websites about, because you need this now, get it right now, and it's a psychological thing, obviously, and like, it's a business, they want to make money, so of course they're going to mess with your wallet, obviously. And then all this stuff about credit here, buy stuff even if you don't have the money, it's fine, you'll deal with it later, like, kind of thing. And so I think consumerism and like capitalism is a big deal, where you just, I do that too, where I'm like, I don't really need this, but it's cute, so why wouldn't I buy it? Like, why wouldn't I, right? And then it's like, oh wait, I don't know why I could have not done that. Some of them just like, I'm just going to go to the store because if I go, and then how they put last minute stuff. Like if you go to the grocery store and even though you bought all the crap you needed already in the store right next to the cashier, it's like, oh, look at this pretty thing. Just buy it. I'm like, I don't need that. It doesn't matter. It's at the front of the store. So why wouldn't you buy it? Kind of thing. That's like a logical thing. And I think we need to focus. I mean, not it's okay to buy random crap once in a while, but I think we do have to focus on investment stuff, like make investments on things, not like, this item I'm buying, do I need like 10 of them or do I just need one and then or just two, right? Or like this item, like, is it something I'll use for many years to come? Or is it something that I can only use it this year and then I have to throw it out? Then it's like, okay, or I have to add it to the, the pile kind of thing. And I do think that, yeah, you should finish the movement. Like, if you're done with this, leave it and then deal with it because then it piles up and then you're like, I don't want to do this anymore kind of thing. Or that could also be a system where it's like, okay, let's say you put the stuff immediately in the dishwasher. Or if you're going to put stuff in the sink, okay, that's fine, but make sure at the end of the day it's all cleared out. And so tomorrow everything is set. Like, it has to be like a reset, which I think will help clear your mind as well and make you think, okay, this needs to go here and I need to do this all the time. And don't do stuff like haphazardly, because then sometimes it's like if you're always hanging up your clothes, always hang up your clothes. Don't be like, oh, I'll just throw it on the floor a couple times. No, because then it gets like annoying. Like with me, like if I do laundry, no one likes to do laundry. It's annoying. I don't like it. It's so annoying. I need AI to do it for me. Anyway, I'm lazy, whatever. But like with laundry, I try to do a system where I throw everything in. And then when it's time to like hang up the clothes that are wet that don't go in the dryer, I try to do it like immediately, like before I even think about, because I'm like, I don't want to hang them up. It's so annoying, but it's going to shrink in the dryer, but I do it immediately, right? And then to take stuff out of the dryer, I'll do it in like bite sizes, like because I'm so lazy. I'll like take like, oh, okay, I'll take the shirts first, and then later I'll take the under, and then later, I do
Mhm.
that to deal with my laziness of it, because then it ends up just like, oh, I just throw it, or I'll just like, or I do things where it forces me to clean up. Well, this is not clutter. This is just like, just don't be messy, right? Where I'll finish my laundry and I throw all the clothes on my bed. So then if I throw them on my bed, I have to put them away. I can't be like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow. No, you do it. I mean, they're clean, whatever. But then sometimes there's been issues where I'll just move the clothes to the side and go to sleep in the bed, But most of the time it helps me, and then I have to get rid of it and do it like quickly, put some music on, get it done, things like that. So you really have to do like a system of it. I know for me, well, personally, I mean, I don't know if you're into horoscopes or not, but I know like last month, I think for my Leo horoscope, there was a thing about how Leos, we tend to get bored very easily. Like I do something that I'm bored and I want to do, and I get, and so sometimes when we're bored, we do things we don't need to do. Like we buy random stuff, right? Or we go out when we don't really have to go out, like things like that. And that has happened to me and I was like, I'm not like that. I'm like, oh wait, yeah, I am. Like I'll get bored and then be like, okay, time to buy a new book, time to buy some, I need to test some skincare stuff. Time to buy some more Korean skincare. You know what I mean? I'm like, I haven't even finished the last bottle, but who cares? I want to figure it out. So things like that happen. Or I just like buy stuff and I'm just like, I don't really need this. What am I doing? Um, and like it's true. Like, do you need this thing right now? Is it an investment? Is it something? Are you just buying it just because it's fun? Like, no, like let's think about it and be more, I guess, as you said, be more mindful and intentional with what we're buying and what we're doing to like add to the clutter. So we don't just have all this random stuff and then we're annoyed by it because like there's all this stuff. What do we do with it? And you pick out something like, I don't know why I bought this item. Why is it with me? Kind of thing. So I think we do have to be careful about that. And I agree with what you said. It should be a maintaining thing. It's not supposed to be perfect. Just figure out your best way to maintain it, whether it be like every few days or once a month or once a year, 2 times a year, where you just do this huge thing and you do it in chunks to figure out, where to move stuff around. Because otherwise it, becomes kind of annoying and then it's just left there. And then 5, 10 years go by and it's still there. And you're like, why? It's like, oh, because I stuffed it there. So I do think it's important. And also it depends on the space, right? There's some spaces that like, especially if you own a home or house or something, like
Mhm.
maybe your kitchen is fine, but your room is atrocious, like has all this stuff, or maybe this, kind of thing. And think about that. Why are there some spaces that you're fine with the clutter and other spots not so much, But yeah, I definitely think that it's important to have like a system of how you clear stuff and how you use stuff and be mindful about it and really think about, do I really need this? Think about the psychology. Like, I know that they're going to try to get me to buy stuff with ads and stuff, but do I really need this thing? Do I really want to add it? And do I really need to buy like, oh, I have clutter, so I'm going to buy like 10 shelves and 10 boxes to put my clutter in, but then the boxes end up being the clutter, so it's just like, it's like annoying. But I still think that I still want to deal with all my clutter. It's still taking a slow time. I wish I was faster, but I have made some leeway. That's the important thing. So yeah, that's what I'll say.
All right. Well, then, on that topic, yes, thank you so much. Thank you for the conversation. As always, we love hearing from you. So let us know, where are you at in your decluttering or clutter-free or process, and how you deal with your belongings, also with the clutter in your mind, all of it. Let us know, share in the comments, and we will catch you on the next episode.
Yeah. Good luck with your decluttering, and Happy New Year. Have you already said Happy New Year? Am I late?
It's
anyway,
fine.
Happy New Year.
Yes. Yes.
And good luck with your decluttering and your energy moving. Bye-bye for now.
Bye. Take care.